Neom's expected Phase 1 completion date is in 2030, but will construction ever even get to that point? Truth is, Saudi has failed so many mega projects that it's hard to believe this will get anywhere. From alleged murders to sketchy environment and security issues, here is exactly what they aren't telling you about Neom. You see, back in 2017, Saudi Arabia made a big announcement about launching a futuristic megacity project worth a whopping $500 billion. This massive project would cover 26,500 square kilometers along the Red Sea in the northwest province of Tabuk. In fact, Neom is so insanely big it elongates over 10,200 square miles between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba. But what's the purpose of this project? Well, it's all part of Saudi's grand plan, Vision 2030, to diversify the economy and decrease their dependency on oil. However, when I say Neom, it's likely the first project that comes to mind is the line, but you'd be surprised to hear that Neom is going to be made up of 10 different regions on the Gulf of Aqaba, which were actually announced less than 1 month ago. Starting with Aquellum, which was described as an ultra-luxury upside-down skyscraper. But when you hear this, the first thing that comes to mind is a literal upside-down skyscraper. However, the skyscraper is described as this because it'll be constructed starting from the top instead of the bottom. What's so unique about this project though is that the skyscraper is going to be inside of a mountain. Because of this, the only visible part from the outside is the top of the skyscraper. But what is going to attract people to Aquellum? From what Saudi has revealed about the skyscraper, there are going to be luxury hotels, apartments, shopping centers, and just about everything else on the spectrum. Although the project is insane and even raises doubts about its completion, people are curious as to why Saudi decided to build this project in such a manner. Simply building the skyscraper at ground level would have saved them millions of dollars, but more importantly, it would likely save them months of construction time. But before we get too focused on figuring out whether Aquellum will even be possible, we move to Laya, a tourist attraction set on the Gulf of Aqaba, which focuses on history and mythology. Within Laya will be 3 high-end hotels designed with a different theme for each one. But what's fascinating is that these hotels will all be located between 400-meter-high mountains. The 3 hotels are the Adventure Hotel, the Oasis Hotel, and the Wellness Hotel. The Adventure Hotel focuses primarily on outdoor activities, as it is described as a place where guests will be invited to embark upon unparalleled adventures without compromising comfort. These outdoor activities consist of horseback riding, hiking, and it has even been rumored that guests will be able to hike to Trojena, an outdoor ski resort in Neom. Further along the valley is Oasis, a hotel focused on allowing its guests to experience nature like never before. And last but not least is the Wellness Hotel, which is focused on providing guests comfort for their stay. However, concerns have been rising about how difficult it will actually be to construct the hotels, considering the fact they're surrounded by mountains. As of now, the estimated completion date is 2028. Speaking of hotels though, Seranna is a hotel in Neom that people claim to be better than all 3 hotels in Laya. It'll consist of 100 hotel rooms to be exact, a beach club on the side, exclusive events, and the usual hotel amenities such as dining and retail spaces. The architecture of Seranna is quite interesting because of the hexagonal columns that make up a majority of the project. But out of all the hotels we have spoken about so far, Epicon, which is about a 20-minute drive north of Seranna, knocks them out of the picture in terms of architecture. In fact, Epicon may just be the most interesting looking project in the entirety of Neom, but unfortunately, this project is also a hotel that provides practically the same experiences as the others. This ultimately raises the question, will all of these hotels really even be needed? The truth is, no one really knows why Saudi is building so many hotels in a space so close to each other. But from the looks of it, Saudi Arabia is expecting some serious tourism from around the world. But what about people who actually want to live in Neom forever? Where could they really stay besides the tourist-based hotels that will constantly be crowded with people? Well, that's where the coastal community Norlana comes in. It's a waterfront town that aims to home 3,000 residents across 700 residential spaces. Unfortunately, it's likely the average person wouldn't be able to live here, as it looks like the main purpose of it is to house only the wealthy who can afford the properties with no financial issues. Out of all the regions regions mentioned so far, the most unique by far though is Utro, which is Neom's entertainment hub, which is described as natural beauty and cutting-edge technology to create the theater of the future. The venue will consist of concerts, plays, and quite literally anything else you can think of entertainment related. But there is a major problem with this whole project. Utro is about an hour drive from the mainstream area of Neom, so it's actually unknown if this specific region will get much traffic at all. It could either go very well or be a miserable failure, which was just a waste of money and time. So far we have covered 6 regions of Neom, the other 4 being Zardan, Zainor, Ilanin, and Gidori. But I won't bore you with those because they're basically just resorts similar to Epicon, Laya, and the others. Let's cover the progress Neom has actually made so far in 2024. Today, Neom is aiming to get a big chunk of the project done by 2030, specifically the first phase as mentioned earlier. Last year, we got a sneak peek with drone footage showing site preparations for the line, and just recently, Neom dropped a video teasing some progress on the site. The earliest projects are set to be completed by 2024, which consist of the luxury island Sindala and the Oxagon. But the one you're likely most curious about is the line, which is aiming for a full completion by 2045. However, people don't really think it's possible, but with 60,000 employees on site, construction will progress faster than we think. Footage shows the foundation of the line being dug out in the dirt with thousands of trucks and excavators working day and night around the clock. Unfortunately though, all this work may be for nothing, as there have been concerns about whether not only the line, but Neom as a whole will actually even have the success they're expecting. Because of the project, activists are even calling out alleged human rights abuse, and on top of that, environmental concerns are becoming way more apparent. Recently, an urban expert named Adam Greenfield went as far as to call it an ecological and moral mess. In fact, many people are raising questions over Neom's quality of life and the risk of it turning into a surveillance nightmare. And let's not forget the biggest potential problem of all, the fear of it becoming a prime target for terrorists. But before we get to that, let's talk about Neom's eco-friendly claims. First things first, it turns out they aren't exactly going to be winning any green rewards. According to environmental figure Philip Oldfield, the cons of the project are going to completely outweigh any of the benefits. It's speculated that the line itself will cause somewhere around 1.8 billion tons of carbon emissions, which is about 4 years of the entire UK's carbon emissions. As for the ski resort Trojena, it's being named too dangerous. As a matter of fact, it's considered as a complete waste even though it's a super fascinating project. Environmental experts summed it up perfectly. Just because something runs on renewables doesn't necessarily make it environment friendly. You see, Neom's eco-friendly dreams rely on a bunch of fancy new technology, like using renewable energy to turn seawater into drinking water, which sounds absolutely insane, but there's a big problem with that. No one has ever really even done that before, so because of this, Neom's environmental goals seem a little out of reach. Side note, the project could also mess with the local wildlife in a very big way. Sure, they're trying to do some good stuff like creating the world's biggest coral garden, but building something this massive is bound to mess up some ecosystems along the way. Meanwhile, sea animals are not the only ones affected. For instance, the line's giant mirrored walls could be a deadly trap for migrating birds, potentially wiping out tons of them. On the other hand, land creatures might have a bit more luck since Neom plans to set up special migration paths just for them. However, the environmental red flags aren't even the worst part of this project because it takes a major turn very quickly. On April 12, 2020, Abdul Rahim al-Huwaiti, a 43-year-old government employee and proud member of the Huwaiti tribe, stood his ground in one of their villages. When the land registry committee came knocking, he didn't move. Instead, he took out his phone and started filming, calling out the forced eviction of his tribe as state terrorism. But his courage didn't sit well with the authorities whatsoever. The next morning, special forces allegedly appeared at his home, literally silencing him forever. It's unknown if the victim attempted to fight back, but the truth is, no one will ever really know what happened. With how much Saudi Arabia values their pointless mega projects, it would be no surprise if this truly did go down. But in more cases than one, they failed to complete the mega project they promised so early on. Jeddah Tower is a perfect example of a complete failure so far. Jeddah Tower began construction April 1st, 2013 and was expected to be completed in 2020, 4 years ago. Now in 2024, the project was halted for several years before they could finally start again in late 2023. People are just hoping the same won't happen to Neom and that it can actually keep up with the pressure, but only time will tell where Saudi Arabia will take this project.